Ceedee Lamb breaks silence on the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Dallas Cowboys news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is Dallas Cowboys Ceedee Lamb speaks out on the Dallas Cowboys heading into the next season. Although the season didn't end how the Dallas Cowboys had hoped, it was a stellar year for both Ceedee Lamb and Dak Prescott. They both put up career numbers, and they should continue playing like that as long as they're together. While visiting the Pro Bowl games, the star wide receiver hyped up his quarterback in a big way. Lamb called himself and Prescott one of the top duos in the NFL. Statistically speaking, it's hard to argue with him. But the Cowboys' star wide receiver only had nice things to say about Dak Prescott. Ceedee Lamb was an absolute monster this season. It felt like he popped off in every game. The superstar wide receiver finished the season with 1,649 yards and 12 touchdowns off of 135 receptions, all of which are career highs. As for Dak Prescott, the veteran quarterback recorded 4,516 yards, 36 passing touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions. With production like that, it's no wonder the Cowboys' offense was on fire throughout the regular season. It'll be interesting to see how Dallas improves next year. They finished with a disappointing playoff loss to the Green Bay Packers after entering the playoffs as the 2 seed. We should expect Lamb and Prescott to continue playing at a high level. But there are some questions the Cowboys must answer this offseason. This is one of the most intriguing teams in the league right now. It appears they have everything you'd want on paper, but just haven't been able to get the job done. With that said, the Cowboys may be aggressive this offseason to try and build a super team to finally end the nearly 30-year Super Bowl drought. Although it took some time to adjust to Mike McCarthy's scheme, the Cowboys still ended the 2023 regular season with one of the league's top offenses. Ceedee Lamb was among Dallas's standouts, posting a career-high 1,749 receiving yards to go with 14 total touchdowns. Would the club use a top draft pick to add another receiving weapon next to Lamb? ESPN's Matt Miller didn't think the idea was too far-fetched. In his newest 2-round mock draft, Miller had the Cowboys selecting Florida State receiver Keon Coleman at number 24 overall. Coleman closed out his collegiate career with 115 catches for 1,506 yards and 19 touchdowns. He spent the 2023 season with the Seminoles, transferring in after playing 2 seasons at Michigan State. According to Miller, Coleman would give Dallas a size advantage at receiver. Though Brandon Cooks made a big impact as the 2023 season progressed, Dallas has needed a running mate for Ceedee Lamb since trading Amari Cooper. Coleman, a 6'4", 215-pound receiver, had 11 touchdowns on just 50 catches in his lone season at Florida State following his transfer from Michigan State, Miller wrote. He needs help separating at times, but facing the opposing team's CB2 would be light work given his size, catch radius, and toughness running through contact. Adding another young pass catcher to the group would be one way to help Dak Prescott in 2024. Another option could lie in strengthening the offensive line. That was addressed in the 2nd round of the mock draft, where the Cowboys used the 56th overall pick on BYU offensive guard Kingsley Suamataia. The offensive lineman spent the last 2 seasons at BYU after transferring in from Oregon. Miller's selection of Suamataia included a focus on a future without veteran Tyron Smith. The impending free agency of left tackle Tyron Smith could move 2022 first-rounder Tyler Smith to left tackle, opening the door for an addition along the offensive line in round 2. Suamataia is an easy-moving, aggressive blocker who has experience at left tackle. He took snaps at right tackle and guard at the Senior Bowl too, and handled himself quite well working inside, Miller wrote. Losing a future Hall of Famer in Tyron Smith won't be easy, but the Dallas offensive line would be in good hands with Suamataia entering the fold. The second story is, Cowboys could lose pass rusher to Commanders after Dan Quinn hire. The Dallas Cowboys will be seeing Dan Quinn twice a year for the foreseeable future, but there could be other free agents joining him too. There are several Cowboys players set to test free agency, but one name stands out among the rest: Dante Fowler Jr. The defensive end has considerable history with Quinn, as Blogging the Boys' Brian Martin pointed out. It only makes sense for the pass rusher to consider a move to the Washington Commanders. From college to the pros, Dante Fowler has a long history with Quinn and could follow him to Washington like he did in Dallas, Martin wrote on February 6th. Like Dorrance Armstrong, he's been a key rotational piece for the Cowboys the last 2 seasons, registering 4.0 and 6.0 QB sacks in that 2-year span. He'd add much-needed depth for the Commanders and would come relatively cheap considering the contracts he signed recently. Martin mentions Armstrong as a potential departure as well. But between the two DEs, Armstrong has been a more versatile and consistent producer. If the Cowboys had to keep one, Armstrong makes more sense as a player who was drafted by the organization and has been a solid piece over the past 6 years. Arriving in the NFL as the 3rd overall pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, Fowler has been around the block. It's safe to say that he's never hit star billing in the NFL, but he has been a useful pass-rushing tool for several teams, including the Cowboys and Atlanta Falcons. Entering the 2020 season, Fowler was looking for a team. Quinn, who coached Fowler at Florida, was then the head coach of the Falcons and signed him up. And when Quinn was fired ahead of the 2021 offseason and subsequently hired by Dallas, Fowler followed him again in 2022. Over 2 years in Dallas, Fowler totaled 10 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. He never made a start, but he also never missed a game in 2022 or 2023. For a rotational player, that's an ideal situation. The Cowboys may consider keeping Fowler, but his connection to Quinn means nothing is a guarantee. As Quinn gets set up in Washington, the Cowboys are still looking for their next DC. One of the confirmed names to interview is Mike Zimmer, the former Minnesota Vikings head coach who was also a longtime DC in Dallas. NFL media insider Tom Pelissero was the first to report the news on February 6th. The Cowboys are interviewing former Vikings coach Mike Zimmer today for their defensive coordinator job per source, Pelissero wrote on X. Zimmer has had plenty of NFL success since his initial stint in Dallas. Although his Vikings team fell short of a Super Bowl appearance, he took Minnesota to 3 playoff appearances. His tenure as the Cowboys' defensive coordinator lasted from 1999 to 2006. Hiring Zimmer would make sense, as he's got a deep familiarity with owner Jerry Jones and the organization. However, he is a whole 2 years removed from the NFL. He spent 2022 with Deion Sanders in Jackson State and was not employed in coaching during the 2023 season. The third story is Dallas Cowboys could hire former Titans head coach as DC. The Dallas Cowboys could hire former Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel as their next defensive coordinator. Dallas is in the market looking for a new DC after Dan Quinn bolted to the Washington Commanders. Vrabel sounds like an intriguing name after he's expected to not land a head coaching gig this year. It's shocking to many in the league that he and Bill Belichick will likely be without a head coaching job this upcoming season. However, there's still a chance Vrabel will come to Dallas to take over the Cowboys' defense. There are reports that Belichick will likely take time off before finding his next franchise as head coach. There was an expectation that he was going to the new Atlanta Falcons coach, but talks did not go further. However, Vrabel could play it safe this upcoming season to be a part of the Dallas Cowboys. This would likely be Mike McCarthy's final year with the Cowboys as head coach. Vrabel could play the long game and help the Cowboys' defense to sneak his way in to become the next head coach in 2025. This is just speculation that he could play, but he could increase his value with the team even as DC. Like Quinn, Vrabel is just looking to get his name back out there, and the coordinator job is the perfect spotlight for him. Many Tennessee Titans players are still shocked that the team moved on from Vrabel. While Dallas interviews Ron Rivera and Mike Zimmer, they could look into Vrabel if they're not intrigued. Vrabel could be overqualified for the defensive coordinator job, but there aren't any open NFL head coaching jobs. The former Titans coach is also a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. During his playing days, he knows pretty much all of how defense works due to his experience playing as a linebacker. Vrabel is a former All-Pro and Pro Bowler. This doesn't hide the fact of the illustrious career he put in his coaching resume. He led the Titans to 4 straight winning seasons before the struggles took over the last 2. Vrabel helped lead Tennessee to the 2019 AFC Championship. He was also named Coach of the Year after the Titans went 12-5 in the 2021 season. Some say there is a downside to this hire. If he becomes the defensive coordinator in 2024, then he could emerge as the next head coach if McCarthy does not receive an extension. However, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Vrabel could help the Cowboys reach their first NFC championship since 1995 if everything goes well. Dallas has the right spices on their defense, and they could decide Vrabel as the next chef. This is if they're not interested in either Rivera or Zimmer, which seems unlikely. However, imagine if Vrabel could bring that same mentality he had in 2021, then it could finally look like a different Cowboys team. Despite having 8 head coaching jobs becoming available during the 2024 year cycle, Vrabel did not land with a new team. There was a deranged report that came out saying Vrabel's physical size was a factor in not getting hired as head coach. This couldn't be the case since there were many top candidates this year who went through rounds of interviews with teams. Whatever the reason why Vrabel is not getting hired, the Cowboys could still keep him in mind.